That's
I'm like, I don't have the movement, like the movement muscle. I'm still fit, just don't have the movement muscle. That's why my camera's going blurry. Doesn't recognize me.
yeah, it's like we're trying to make you look extra svelte.
All right. So have you listened to any episodes or do you not know anything about us?
I think I'm pretty sure I did, but I wouldn't mind a refresher or just tell me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read the emails and saw the
Come
video.
on, man. Don't you know who we think we are over here?
I know I watched the video.
All
I
right, fine.
remember doing that.
So we're just gonna have a conversation, really. That's all it is. My audience, this is a newer show. You'll be my 20th episode. We were podcasting under a different banner for 5 years before this. But this platform is centered around just doing business type stuff. But we're growing. Just hit our 20th episode, and I believe we just
Amazing.
hit our 100th download follower. So I'm excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's a big
you.
deal.
So you have a few people that will listen to it, but a lot more will listen to it on my Instagram because I do have a big Instagram. So that being said, that means nothing. I just say that because I want to sound cool. There's 4 people who interact with me, so it means nothing. But anyway, we're just gonna have a conversation. That's it. I want to know about you. I want to know about your business. I do have some very specific questions,
Sure.
but as often is the case, I tend to go down rabbit holes of things. This is personal. This is business. I want to know why you are who you are and why you can fuck shit up and do things for big people. So that's what I want to know.
I am so here for that.
All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna do a quick intro. So shush yourself for 1 second, and then I'm gonna talk about how cool you are. Don't disappoint me during the show, and I'm gonna make sure I don't go fuzzy. There I am. I'm back. Okay, cool. Are you ready? All right. Hey, welcome, branding aficionados and purpose-driven CEOs. You like that? Are you a purpose-driven CEO? Welcome to the Branding Laboratory. We are now on our 20th episode. Woohoo! And in this episode, I have someone really special coming on today, mostly because I want to learn how to become famous from her skills. Her name is Melanie Herschorn. I hope I'm saying that right, Melanie. Please give me a thumbs up. Yes. She is a book marketing strategist, a publisher, and an author as well. And her whole vibe is helping people turn their books or their ideas into major power moves. I think that came from her press kit. Is that right? Major power moves for the business. So whether you are thinking about writing a book like people told me I should, or you've already written a book, but you don't really know where to go with that, or you're having problems getting it published, Melanie can probably help you out with that. So she's going to come on the show today and talk a little about who she is and what she does and how she got into the business. And she also has a new book out. So we'll talk about that. Make a big impact with your book. That's out right now. Is that correct? Thumbs up on that one. But before we do that, we're going to get to know her a little bit. Oh, she got a visual on that and learn her story and how she got here and why you, as our listeners, should pay attention to her. Melanie, welcome.
Thank you. And I love that power moves. That didn't come from me, but I could use that.
And you like that?
Mhm.
What? We can talk about branding during the show and see how you can like transfer that into your space.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit about your journey from celebrity publicist. Is that you were, I don't, what's a celebrity publicist? You help celebrities get
PR.
PR. Is that what that means?
Yep.
To book marketing strategist, and why one and not the other, or are you still doing a little both?
It ends up being a little bit of both, but in between, I did other things too. So it has been totally non-linear, my
Hmm.
whole journey as an entrepreneur. So yes, so I was walking red carpets with celebrities, and then I got a master's in journalism, and I worked as a journalist on the radio and in newspapers. And then I moved across the country and I had a new baby, and I thought, what if I don't work as a journalist and get paid pennies and then have to pay a babysitter a lot more money than I'll be earning? And I do something else that I had this burning desire to do, which was design and manufacture breastfeeding clothing.
Okay.
Often they say necessity is the mother of invention, and in this case, it certainly was. So I figured out how to do it. I Googled and I created a brand, and I sold my clothes on Nordstrom.com and on Amazon and in boutiques across the US and some in Canada. And then in year 7, I made a bad hire. And the marketing person I brought on helped me run the business into the ground, all while basically making me feel like I was an inch tall every single day. She would say things like, how do you have a master's degree? You're so boring when you write.
Wow. That sounds like a great marketing team.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So after that, I shut the
Sounds like
business.
my abusive father.
Fantastic. Isn't that wonderful when we have abusive people in our
We have such
lives?
supportive people in our
Yeah.
lives, but you're still alive and kicking. As am I.
Exactly. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So here you are, here I am. And I realized that I had a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, and a skill set. And I could help people with marketing in a supportive way. And authors started calling me out of the blue. People are saying, I have a book, nothing's happening with it. I don't know what to do. And I said, I can help you with that.
Wait, hold on. We got to back up. That's just a
Okay.
lot. First thing, non-linear. It's amazing to me. I have to talk about this thing. Sorry, because I'll forget about if I don't address it. It's amazing to me. You said that. How many people I've spoken to in the last 10 years who had this preconceived notion that they were going to follow this projection that they had outlined for their life. And it was a straight linear line, but it's not, man. Like life is a motherfucker. Running a business is even a bigger motherfucker. It's ziggity zags and wigglies and like all sorts of stops and bumps. And it's crazy sometimes. And it is not for the weak hearted. Agree or disagree?
Oh, I totally agree. There, you will be punched in the gut more than you thought possible, more than your father could actually do.
I don't know. He was good at that. He was gold medal champion at that. But you
Mm,
said something else about running your business into the ground for that first phase. So before you continue,
sure.
over 7 years, were there never any signs of this? I just have to ask. Did you not start to see the writing on the wall, or were you?
It was a confluence of factors. So it was going well, but I was making mistakes. And I thought marketing will be the thing that saves me. But at the same time, it was millennials were becoming moms, and they were using fast fashion nursing clothes. They were buying size whatever, ripping it, and then throwing it out. And they weren't spending as much money on nursing wear. So that, coupled with the fact that I paid that marketing person 25 grand and didn't get any ROI from that, made me see that I couldn't do it anymore. And part of that was the constant belittling. I started to feel like a shell of a person.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time going into my home office. I would shut the door and I would not even go in. I was so beaten down.
That's really
And
unfortunate.
it
So
was,
you eventually fired this individual, I'm assuming.
yeah, but it was not easy. When you have somebody who either some sort of personality disorder, they do not let you go.
What's the name of that movie where the stalker girl, it's like a roommate and she won't leave the roommate? It's an old movie, maybe the
Single white
80s.
female?
Is that what it calls? Single white female?
I think so.
So you had your own single white female situation going on?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. I actually did a video on this yesterday, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to post it or not because I don't know if it adds any value. But I hired a marketing company about 10 years ago as well,
Mhm.
interestingly enough, and I spent around $25,000 over the course of about 8 months. And it's with my one of my other businesses. I own a photography studio, and 8 years ago, I was shooting weddings and doing the traditional photography stuff, but I was burning myself out in that space, and I really wanted to move more into a business capacity like I am today because that's my background. So I hired this company to help me rebrand and scale into this space. But after about 8 months, and I started seeing the writing on the wall right away. I wasn't getting abused or single white female, but I like after month 1 or 2, I started seeing like this cookie cutter approach to everything. And I was like, this doesn't really feel like me, guys. And so I'd call them up, and at first it was really hard to get them on the phone. Just this is back before you could just, I guess we could text back at 9 years ago, but still, like communication wasn't what it is today. So we would still phone call,
Yeah,
and
they
there
were
was
still
all,
probably avoiding you anyway. Even if you'd emailed them, they probably wouldn't have responded.
yeah. But whenever they did response, though, it was always this sort of circumventing the actual situation and not really addressing the elephant in the room. And I would be like, okay, I guess they're the professionals. What am I? I'm just a lowly little entrepreneur, solopreneur photographer. What do I know? So I let it run. And then anyway, I'm digressing, but I started noticing these patterns. And finally, I was like, guys, we have literally done jack shit in 8 months. The blogs are boring. My social media sucks. It doesn't sound like me. My SEO is non-existent. And there was like all these reasons why, and which is the primary reason I got into this business. Because I was like, I started doing stuff on my own while they were marketing with me, and I was getting better results right away. So that's where I started this new business. Sorry, I digress. So you got rid of single white female,
Yes.
made a shift, didn't hire us, should have, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later. And then where are you now? Pick up on that journey before I rudely interrupted you.
Oh, it wasn't rude at all. And I got authors calling me, and then I realized what was happening in the publishing industry as a whole is that people are being sold this dream of becoming an author without an actual plan for how to make their book have the return on investment that they think it will have. So a lot of people go and publish a book and then nobody knows about it. And then they get upset and they get down on themselves and they realize, oh, I don't know how to market it. And now I'm too tired. So I discovered that if I could help people from the beginning, from the writing process through publishing, all while looking at the end, what the goal is before even putting pen to paper, then there's a guarantee of success on the end.
So creating a blueprint, like a strategy up front.
But I agree with you about cookie cutter. Cookie cutter doesn't work. And that's why I would never say that when people say, what do you do for all your clients? I say, I can't really answer that because every book is different. Every audience is different. Every business brand is different. And I can't say we always post on Mondays on Instagram. No, that's not how it works. And when you try to duplicate what other people are doing, you just become part of the noise.
I really appreciate that notion. And it really is, especially in today's landscape of, because there's entrepreneurs launching businesses every day. And at the fastest clip I think we have ever seen at least in America. I don't know about the rest of the world. I think I saw this data point that there's something like a 600% increase in the last 5 years alone of new entrepreneurs launching businesses in the marketplace from whatever it is, vitamin, healthcare, yogis, coaches. I think coaches and yogis were leading that pack, which is crazy to me. Are we really that sucky that we need coaches in mindful practice? We're such a shitty population. That's the need. But you're right about the fact that people have this idea of you can build it and they will come, so to speak, to borrow that old mantra from Field of Dreams movie. And in today's marketplace, that's just not possible anymore because there's so many people competing against you, whether it's book publishers or branding experts or whatever you do. Like you have to figure out some sort of a secret sauce to stand out. And what's your unique value proposition, correct? So that you're saying that's relevant, obviously, in the book industry as well.
100%. And I even go further than that because I don't help everybody. I like to work with attorneys and wealth advisors because I know what's going on in their minds in terms of I have all this really great skill set and I have all this knowledge and I know how to get that out of them and create a book that their ideal client would read and then gets that no trust piece out of the way before they even meet.
Why those two niches? What's your background at that you have expertise on that?
So that's the thing. I don't have expertise on that. But my training as a general assignment reporter meant that I just love to learn. And the two sort of beats that I just kept coming back to were anything to do with law and politics or finance.
But why those two?
Because I don't know about them and I want to know more.
So could that niche theoretically change as you get more curious about something else?
No, I don't think it will because there are so many things in this world that I don't know and that I can't just pick up a newspaper. Not that I have picked up a newspaper in years. I read everything online, but I can't just pick up a newspaper and learn about. And I also love the fact that those two groups of professionals work with other people. They work with humans, like lay people like myself.
And they also generally have money to spend on themselves.
They do. And they're willing to market themselves in a way that's going to differentiate them from their competition.
You and I are not dissimilar in a lot of regards. I do personal branding for people of that nature. So personal and book writing is something that's in their secret sauce. So I'm glad that we've met just so that I have somebody in my Rolodex as we move into that space. Does that mean that you won't take any other types of clients on if they're not in those two industries, or that's just like your specialty?
No, it's my specialty. And as a branding expert, you are. If you try talking to everybody, you end up talking to nobody.
Yeah.
And I really found that I can help those two subsets of professionals say things that maybe in their jargon doesn't come out in English.
I want to call out something that I think is applicable to you because it was definitely applicable to me.
Yeah.
The marketing company that I was working with, their primary core competencies were focusing on larger corporations. And I think having worked in the corporate world for almost 15 years, and I've seen that side of the equation, I think that you can tend, if you're a service company like like this agency was, and you're servicing larger corporations, I think you can get away with more of a cookie cutter approach because of the bureaucracy of corporatization, but also because it's such a big, magnanimous animal that it's harder to see the barometric reading increase or decrease. You follow where I'm going? But if you're an entrepreneur, or a small business, or a solopreneur, man, like your feet are in the fire right away. Like I can see the smallest little tick of an adjustment. And so I thought, and this applies to you, I'm getting somewhere. I thought by working with a large corporation that had an amount of success working with corporations that I would be able to borrow from their expertise because they're like a big deal. But that was couldn't be further from the truth, which leads me to my question. If you don't know your niche and you haven't really taken the time to figure that out like you have, and you're nebulous like I was at the time, and you just think you can hire anybody just based on a reputation, you're doing yourself a disservice because a lot of times small businesses work really well with other small businesses because of that intimacy factor, right? So,
Absolutely.
so as it pertains to you and your reputation and the things you're doing, can you speak to that for a minute in terms of why would somebody hire Melanie Herschorn versus one of these conglomerate publishing companies?
Yes. I was just talking about this at a very early meeting at 6:30 this morning.
See?
It's the white glove treatment.
Mm.
That is something that no matter how big my company gets, will never go away. Because I want to be there and the people that are on my team, we are there to make sure that the author feels like they have somebody holding their hand throughout the entire process, and that it is customized and tailored to them and their brand and their needs. I've been called the pioneer of integrity in the publishing industry.
Wow, I can think of worse things to be called. That's pretty nice.
I've been called those things too, but for the purposes of this podcast, this is what we're going to focus on.
All right.
And so I want to so integrity is so important to me, and not just my integrity, but keeping the integrity of somebody's brand, of somebody's niche, of somebody's book. At the end of the day, I'm not there anymore. And what they're left with is the book. And they have to be proud of it, and they have to want to share it.
You said no matter how big I get. Are you thinking that's something that you want to aspire to, becoming one of these big agencies, or are you like being the small version that you are right now? And maybe you aren't small. Maybe I don't know anything about it. Looking at your press kit, you've got a lot going on. I didn't mean to imply that you weren't somebody. It just meant you are still a small business operator in the sense.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not offended.
Okay.
No, absolutely.
So
big, yes, yes. I want to be a boutique company always.
At what point, let's just pretend for a minute as futurists, you blow up over the next 5 years and you're starting to realize that you are no longer boutique. You're now one of these conglomerate publishing agencies. Do you put the kibosh on that and say, no, that's not where we're going? Or do you just adapt and learn to grow in that space so that you can still maintain the vibe you want, but still be the giant that you are?
Oh boy, this is okay.
This ain't your mama's podcast. We ask real questions on here. We have real
I
conversations.
love real questions. I don't think that I would wake up one day and go, oh, how did this happen? So I think that I would always be intentional. And I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and not everybody is my cup of tea. So we have to be a really great fit when we work together. It's a year-long process. You're writing your book with us. It is not cookie cutter. It is not something that is haphazard and we just patch things together and throw it up on Amazon. That's not what this is. So no matter how big my company gets, whoever is working on my team will have the same approaches as I do.
You said you're not everybody's cup of tea. What makes you not someone's cup of tea?
I love your questions. I just want to say that this is so much fun. I am direct, nice, but direct. And when somebody sends me, and I'm not speaking about anybody in particular, but if I wake up to 49 emails from a particular client, that's not a good working relationship. So you have to be willing to, you have to be ambitious to want to work with me. You have to be a go-getter. And you can't be the complacent type of person, because I'm going to give you ideas and I want you to run with them.
Sending you 45 emails on a daily basis qualifies as being ambitious, go-getter, and not very complacent.
You don't know what the emails say.
I had a client. I'm gonna best you on this one. I had a client a few years ago that and we're gonna talk about this in a minute. So how do you fire a client or embed once you're in
Oh,
bed with
yes.
them?
Yes.
So I had a client that I had to fire, and it was so I need to back up even further. I thought I wanted to be big like you and have an agency, and I set out to build that, and I was well on my way. But halfway in, I realized, and we were making some pretty big contracts. It was with a former business partner of mine that I'm not with anymore. We were really finding some pretty cool success, and I decided halfway in, primarily because of this client that I'm about to talk about, that this is not the space I wanted to operate in, because I was getting away from what my powerhouse is, what my sweet spot is.
Yeah.
But anyhow, how do you fire a client? And can I just tell a story for a minute? So you mentioned you're getting 45 emails a day. I was away on a trip, a retreat actually, that I was part of in terms of like organizing and whatnot. And she knew this. And I was in Costa Rica. And man, it wasn't like 15 minutes would go by that she wouldn't be blowing up my phone or my email or my text messages or my WhatsApp or whatever. And it started like the day one. And anyway, fast forward, it really quickly matriculated into a toxic situation where, what's the word when you're in a relationship? It was a codependency. She was a codependent client. I don't think that she could function without having some sort of drama unfolding with us and we were doing, and by her own admission, we were doing a really nice job. It wasn't that we were doing a poor job. Her issues were just she had decision imposter syndrome. She couldn't make decisions about stuff. And so she had to run everything by me. Does that make sense? And
It's sounding eerily familiar. And yes, and it's everywhere you go, you have to take yourself with you. So no matter who she works with, she will be that way.
so how do you fire if you're this individual, if you're Melanie Herschorn? Am I saying your name correct?
Yes,
Herschorn?
you've said it correctly every
Okay,
single time. Thank
cool.
you.
If you're Melanie Herschorn and you've signed a contract with a client and you're halfway through the process of putting out this book, are you contractually obligated to finish that out, or do you have clauses that you can step back? What's the process? What's the due process for you to step away from a bad client? And what does that bad client look like for you before you have to actually say, you know what, I just can't do it anymore?
I will not step away until what I have said in the contract is complete.
That means publishing the book.
Oh yeah,
So you have to stay the duration.
I will stick it out. I will stick it out, but not a minute longer, because I believe that if you really want to have success with a book, then I don't want to stand in your way. So it's my job at the beginning to see the red flags.
It's hard to see them sometimes.
In the two cases I'm thinking of, I saw them, but I let them slide.
Mine was My situation was, I wouldn't say it was a red flag. I was like gaga because she was a big deal, and it was a really big contract, and
It's the money, right?
it wasn't so much the money. I took the client for the wrong reasons, and I'm fully admitting to that.
Yeah.
I took it for the wrong reasons. I thought it was going to be a snowball for me, like a ripple effect. By associating with these types of people, I would be able to align myself with more of those types of people. And it turns out that I'm not really in alignment with those types of people. And we don't need to describe what that is. It's just, it wasn't my tribe. And I wasn't in my wheelhouse and stuff of the things that I really like to work with. And philosophically, I just had differences, which is why I have built into all of my contracts that if the two of us decide that it's not worth pursuing any longer, we can heartily agree to step away and there's no ill will. Yeah. So that really isn't a situation for you because you don't ever step away, you just fulfill.
I will fulfill, but you're giving me a thought that maybe I go back. I just, If somebody's in the process of working so hard on a book, I can't imagine not helping them fulfill that. It happens in the marketing piece where people start saying, "Can you just do this for me?"
There's another way to look at that, if I may.
Yeah, please.
You are helping them and you are obligated to help them because you contractually agreed to have that energy resource exchange. But there's also a statement to be made that you're hampering them because your obligation is conditional in a sense that you're only there because you have to. You don't really want to. And human nature errs on the side of if we don't really want to do something, we probably don't put our passion into it. So I guess there's that piece of it you could examine.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I can turn that off. I'm really good at compartmentalizing.
I'm not very good at that. So you're better than me in that regard. You've done a lot of different things. Journalist, publicist, you're now an entrepreneur. What would you say are some of the key lessons in each of those different industries that you've operated in that have guided you to where you are right now?
I think the lesson has always been communicate well, no matter what. It's also about not burning bridges. Even if you leave one area and go somewhere else, don't burn bridges.
That's a really good point, and I would like to add to my story, if I may, just so you don't think that I burned bridges. I did line her up with somebody else that would be more in alignment with her, and we left on good. We're not singing Kumbaya around campfires on the weekends, but we didn't leave in a sense of I left her high and dry. I didn't just walk away. I was like, we had a heart to heart, and I said, I don't really feel like this is in our best interest to continue this relationship, and I just want to know how you feel about it. And we agreed that she was feeling the same way, so it was a mutual decision.
Good. See, that's a great example of communicating how you're feeling. And the difference between us is that I am a woman.
Mm.
And there have been times in my career where I've been the only woman. And so what I've learned is that I know how to fit in with a group of guys and I don't have to feel bad about that.
So are you a chameleon? And I'm glad you said you're a woman because I didn't know
You
that.
weren't
So
sure.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
So I'm
Anymore,
confirming
it's
it.
hard for me to tell.
I'm confirming.
I appreciate that confirmation. And I'm glad that you labeled yourself that. I'm a man. You're a woman. We are all that exists on this planet. Just want to acknowledge that, everyone. Would you consider yourself to be a chameleon?
Oh, yes.
So is there a
Absolutely.
downside to being a chameleon?
Of course there is.
Is there an inauthentic aspect of being a
No, I
chameleon?
will never be inauthentic, but there are different parts of me that I will show at different times. So all that to say, though, is that as a chameleon, I can rise to the occasion in whatever room I'm put in.
I think I'm glad you clarified that because I think some people would hear the word you're a chameleon. And I was asked this question yesterday. I was a guest on a show and the host was, I guess he moonlighted as a DJ or something on the side. And he was talking about how you brand yourself. And he likes to show up in like just his regular wear when he shows up to a wedding to photograph it because that was who he was. And he wanted to know if I thought that was inauthentic of him if he would change his garb for a different type of wedding and wear a tuxedo. So we had a whole conversation around that and centered around chameleon and being inauthentic. And it was their experience that by him scripting himself to wear something else, he would be inauthentic of to his true self. I don't know that I really agree or disagree. I think there's a lot of shades of gray and subtleties to that question.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear you say that because whether you call yourself a chameleon or not, as a business owner, especially as an entrepreneur,
You have
you
to be.
have to be by the very
Yeah.
nature of what you do.
Absolutely, because otherwise, as entrepreneurs, we always start out by doing everything ourselves. And if you're not doing everything yourself, chances are it's not going to take place at the beginning.
You said that in all these previous jobs, the lessons that you learned and whatnot, were those lessons that you learned the hard way, or are those just, did you come across them and you observed them, or were there things that actually happened to you? Be real with for me for a second, because everybody has fuck ups in their life, right? No matter
Yeah.
what you've done, there's something that's changed or altered the trajectory based upon a bad decision you might have made or whatever. So do you have any of those in your life that you look back and wow, it turned out to be good or maneuvered it to be good, but man, that was some fuckery.
Sure, of course.
Can
Absolutely.
we talk some of those? And I
Yeah,
don't mean like you were a teenager and you went on a drinking, like in the trajectory of your personal professional life
yeah.
to where you are today, and you look back and you say, man, if that hadn't have happened, I don't know that I would be here today.
100%. I'll start with the first one.
Spill the beans, man.
The
Woman.
the the reason I left PR. We'll start there.
Okay.
I loved a lot of aspects of it, but I didn't love the way I was treated by certain celebrities.
Hmm.
And when one particular celebrity chose to tell me off on my birthday twice about something that was not my fault or my responsibility, but they didn't care, that was the moment for me. I said, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore.
Because
And
you were disrespected.
yes,
And this was, you'd already seen patterns of this.
oh, yes, absolutely. My sister loves to tell this story, which I hate, but I'll share it with you. I was backstage she was visiting me in
Is this the
LA.
same story that you just started to tell, but now you're telling it from third person?
No.
Oh, sorry.
So my sister was visiting me in LA. We were backstage at a TV show with another celebrity, and they were about to go on TV, and they handed me their gum. And my sister was like, you take their gum. And I said, yeah, that's part of the job. So now fast forward to when I'm being told off by someone else. I didn't want to be the person taking their gum. I didn't want to be the person taking their crap. I knew that there was more for me in the world, that I could make a difference.
Did you hand the gun back to them when you walked away?
I did not. I threw it up.
That would have been a mic drop moment. If you could go back, would you have the opportunity to hand that gun back to them? Would you do that?
No, I don't
All
think
right, all right. You're a
I
woman
don't
of.
think I would because they were not trying to disrespect me.
Yeah, yeah, I understand.
There's just
It
so
was a
much
test. I'm going to see how classy you are. It was just a test.
that I passed.
You passed.
Okay.
As it pertains to people who have power in that sort of space, perceived power,
It's perceived.
do you think that power corrupts people, or are corrupt people drawn to power?
Politics aside,
No, because it's the same
no.
thing. It's all the same.
I think that there are people who crave power.
So they're already corrupt in a sense.
I think there's it starts in childhood. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I believe it starts in childhood. When you don't get enough attention or you get negative attention or there's some sort of abuse, you're going to go out as an adult and crave things to fill a void. Power is one of those things. For me, nobody ever listened to me.
Mm.
And I just wanted, that's why my mother's always, yeah, you always give Melanie a mic. She'll be really happy. I don't mean a person, a microphone. And
Thank
give
you
her a
for clarifying
microphone.
that.
She'll be very happy. And I just want to talk.
Were you from a large family or something? Why do you need a mic? Like, what was there a sense of lack of validation? You weren't hugged,
Yeah,
you
it's
weren't
like
loved.
no, I was loved. I was hugged. It's just my voice. I've always known things that I wasn't listened to,
Mm.
or I would try to be the voice of reason at age 5, and people would be like, "What's she talking about?"
So you're like
So
an old soul.
I maybe
You think you've been here before? You believe in that stuff? Okay. When it comes to growing a business that's centered around other people, authors, books, totally different lives, do you have a specific strategy? You've talked about meeting people where they are and becoming a chameleon and whatnot. But do you have a very specific strategy that you've used that's helped you grow into this space that you are now?
I think it all comes from confidence, inner confidence,
But how do you know how to run a business?
experience. And sometimes you just have to try. Most of the time, we don't do things because we're afraid. When I say most of the time, I'm just talking about myself. So it's getting past that fear and reminding myself that it's not life or death. Nothing I do is life or death. So the worst that you hear is no.
I was listening in the gym this morning to, I don't know what channel it is on YouTube, but it's all in like Buddhist philosophies, and
Mm.
the whole thing was centered around detaching from outcomes.
Yes, that's
It,
hard.
oh my God, it's really hard, especially as a small business owner, because your client expects very specific outcomes and deliverables. So you have to assign yourself to like the ROI, if you will. How do you detach as a business owner and that has clients and
Mm.
you're fulfilling a need for them that is supposed to grow them and make them famous, popular, more rich, whatever it is that you're trying to do? You have to attach yourself to some sort of outcomes. So how do you manage that in a mindful capacity so that you're not like eating yourself up from the inside?
So, two things, two ways. The first piece is for me, it's about attaching myself to the outcome of a sales call or a launch or something like that. That's where I've really struggled with detaching from the outcome. But in terms of the outcome with my clients, I know that I'm giving 100%
Mm.
every time. And I trust myself, and I have no doubt there. I have no doubt that what they will get is what they will want. And if it's not what they want, then we'll figure out how to make it what they want.
That means you have to be very crystal clear on the deliverables that you're expected to deliver to the client,
100%.
because
You should.
perception is reality, and you might have a feeling about it a type of way here, but they might feel something completely different because you haven't aligned your values, your objectives, or deliverables, or whatever it is. So that being said, as a business owner working with prima donnas like me, you have to really crystallize those expectations. This is exactly what I'm going to give you, Devo. And this is what it looks like. This is what it tastes like. This is what it feels like. That's a thing, right? For you?
Absolutely. Here is it's all spelled out in the contract. And because I work with a lot of attorneys, they read the contracts, which is very helpful.
I hope you have an attorney if you're working with attorneys.
Of course.
Okay.
I of course.
Because that's like being a coach and not having a coach.
Yeah, that'd be weird. I have coaches too.
I literally was on a show with a podcast with a coach, and I was like, "So who coaches you?" And she was like, "I don't have a coach." And I was like, "Wait,
Is this thing on?
back up. So why do you want people to give you money if you don't think you need a coach?" And she was like, "No." I was like, "Seriously, let's just answer that for a minute. If you're a business coach," and I'm asking now, I'm talking to Melanie, am I cuckoo? If you're a coach, shouldn't you have a coach of your own? Because you always need coaching. No matter what it is, you need coaching.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I
so I'm
think
not cuckoo.
no, you're not cuckoo. And I've heard this many times before. It's like every coach should have a coach. And if you don't have a coach, why would you expect someone to pay you to coach them?
It seems like a no-brainer to me. I think a coach and a good therapist. And that doesn't mean that you're a whack job, even though I might be a whack job, but having a good therapist in your corner so that you don't have to deliver it to your friends or your family or your wife or your partner or whatever, and you have somebody you can just go unload on. I'm sure they love. I don't know how they do that job, by the way. I don't know that I could be a therapist and have to listen to people's bullshit all day long. So bless
No.
these people. Having a therapist and having a business coach, those are like fundamental for me. And I did not know this early in my career. I'll just be the first to admit. So I'm telling you, with my seasoned wise self that I am today, get a coach, get a therapist, unload on them, save your family. Right? Agree or disagree?
Save your family, save the world.
In terms of this business that you're running now, you're working with financial folks, wealth advisors, attorneys. Is there somebody, can we hone in on that a little bit more? Like this avatar, specific types of wealth advisors? You only like working with women, you like working with men, you don't care about gender, you'd have a financial sort of policy. Tell me a little bit more about that avatar.
Sure. So man, woman is it's fine. It's really about what your story is and what you want to achieve with your book. And if I see that it's got legs, if I can see a way to make this book work and marketable, then let's do it. You have to be able to pay for you have to pay for it. So you have to make a certain amount of money to get the service.
Do you have to come to you with a book before you work with them? Or do you
No,
have an inception program that helps people come up with ideas? If I wanted to consult, and I'm speaking for me personally, because I don't know that I have anything particularly that I would like to write about, but I do have a lot of things that I share all the time. Nobody listens, but I still want to share them. but I don't really know what I would write about, right? So if I wanted to write a book, could I come to you and work with you and you help me flesh it out and give it legs? And at some point, do you be like, bro, this is just not going to fly? I'm just, it's not, you don't have anything here. You're like, you're a no talent ass clown, move to the next.
I haven't met any no talent ass clowns yet, but at least in the entrepreneurial space. But no, I would absolutely sit down. And one of the things that I love to do is just listen. I get on a Zoom call like this, or I sit down in person at Starbucks and I listen to somebody and they just start talking. And then at the end of whatever they've said, I can distill down to usually a sentence what it is they're saying and what their idea is. And then 10 times out of 10, they go, that, yeah, how did you know? And I'll say, you just said it to me. So it's really hard to see the label from inside the bottle.
Oh my God, I use that all the time. Shut the fuck up. It's not my original quote. There's a
I
guy
didn't make
named,
that up.
there's a dude named Gary Fry here in Charlotte I met 10 years ago. And the bro and I were walking downtown. We were just talking about things. He's a wealth advisor, CPA type stuff. Anyway, and he literally said, I often find that I can't read my label because I get stuck inside my jar. And I was like, wait, shut the front door. What'd you just say? That's the coolest thing I've ever heard. I use that all the time.
So
Do
that's
you do
why
you know Gary?
I do not know Gary.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Gary.
I thought it was Gary's
Hey.
quote.
No, he didn't make
Hmm.
it up. I didn't either. I'm not taking credit.
I don't either. I thought Gary made it up.
I don't think so.
So you're a creative at heart.
Very much.
So writing books and running a business have a lot of technical aspects to them. How do you balance the technical, the tactical with the creative so you don't lose any one or the other and you always have a nice hybridization of that?
Oh, because I also love all the technical stuff. And you'll find me figuring out how to build a website in the back end just because I feel like it. I love tech.
When you work with people who don't really quite know what they want from a book and maybe their experience spans multiple industries, multiple timelines, etc. Are you more inclined to help them hone in on a specific niche like you're doing with wealth advisors and attorneys when they write their book? Or do you prefer to let the book take on the life of its own, mirroring the progression of the author?
The first one.
So a book always
Because
has to have a purpose.
it has to have a purpose. Look, you can publish with somebody else if you want to write your big old legacy book that your children will read in the future. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. But the goal of big impact books is to help you write a book that's going to make an impact in your business and your brand. And a book that's stream of consciousness about your childhood isn't going to do that.
That would be my problem because, as you can see from the podcast, I have a lot of rabbit holes I like to go down.
Hey, you gave me that heads up ahead of time, and I think I've been following you into them okay.
You said that the hardest part of writing a book is not writing the book, it's the expansion of the build out, the marketing, the scalability of it. Is that really what you believe?
Yeah. Oh, and you'll ask any author, they'll tell you the same because they think that writing the book was so hard and then they get to the marketing and they're burnt out. Or they're like, okay, I had an event and now what do I do with the book? So that's why we start that before the book is published so that the machine's already running and there is no drop off after the launch of the book.
So you're cradle to grave from inception all the way to marketing.
To death. Yes.
But that's what your process is, right?
Yes.
I like that term, cradle to grave. I use it a lot. You can use it as well if you want.
Oh, thank you. It's just a little morbid though.
I guess. You don't have to ruin it for me. In terms of you and your business, tell me a little bit about the direction that you think you're going to be taking this. We talked about staying boutique. Where are you located? What city, town?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, you're out in the heat. Okay. I love when I fly into Phoenix and it's like a desert, but then you just see golf courses everywhere that are like lush and green. Aren't you guys in like a water warfare right now with Texas and Colorado and something else?
It's the Colorado River. It's funny here. We don't seem to notice a difference. Like in California, they're like, stop using your water. And we're like, oh, we're just using ours. It's fine.
You're not from Phoenix originally.
No, I'm from Toronto, Canada.
I thought so. I thought I heard Canada in your voice. I used to date somebody from Toronto.
I
I like
wonder.
Canadians.
I don't think so. Yes, we're
Yeah, I
nice.
do. I like Canadians. One of my clients is Winnipeg. Yes.
Cool.
So I'm going to be going to Canada soon. Let's talk a little bit about marketing if we can for a minute. How
Sure.
much time we have left? Wow, we've already gone over. That means you talk too much. You have mentioned that email marketing is often overlooked in favor of social media. Can you explain what you mean by that? I think I understand, but not a lot of people understand how to use email. So that's
Right.
why they don't use it. And social media is really there. It's just it's capably available, but people still don't know how to use that. But tell me, is there a first of all, tell me what you mean by that, but is there a statement to be made that two can work hand in hand?
Oh, absolutely. They do work collaboratively. I would always say have your social media presence and have your email marketing presence. The issue is that we are just parking our cars in the metaverse parking lot and we're
Mhm.
hoping that we don't get towed. You do not own your social media followers. You
Mhm.
do not have any way of reaching out to them unless you are direct messaging them or you are tagging them. And there's still no guarantee they're going to see what you're putting out there. Whereas when you have somebody's email address, you know it's a more intimate situation and you know it's getting to them. You can even tell if they've opened it and if they've clicked on it too.
Yeah. It throws you off when I switch up the camera mode, doesn't it?
It throws me off on what?
When I switch the camera mode, it looks like it throws you off, so I apologize.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Oh, here's the thing about email marketing, and this is not a pushback or a disagreement because I think that there is a recipe for making it work. But I have noticed just as an entrepreneur and just an individual, dude, I am bombarded all day long with the most ridiculous amount of emails. And I don't check email very often because of it. I'd
Mm.
rather just, if you need to get in touch with me, send me a text message. That's the fastest way to find me. Call me or something, drop me a DM. But there is a way to use email effectively. So in Melanie Herschorn's tried and true advice, what would you suggest is the best way that a small business owner, whether you're writing a book or not, can use email to their advantage?
Oh, absolutely. So don't call things newsletters and really try to customize it.
What do you
So
call it?
don't send a subject line newsletter
Oh,
for
I saw it. Gotcha, gotcha.
November.
Mhm,
Yeah. You can call it whatever you want behind the
mhm,
scenes. Just don't make it about a newsletter. Offer value. So
mm.
whatever kind of business you're in,
Can you see that?
I cannot see. Oh, what problem do you solve? Yes, exactly. Offer value 80% of the time. When I send emails, I'm just sending information and I'm trying to, and encouragement a lot of the time. I do not have a big drop off. I don't have a big unsubscribe rate
Mm,
because I'm not trying to sell people things all the time.
mm,
Now, if you're the Gap, all your emails are going to be about sales,
mm,
but people expect that because you're a store. As an entrepreneur, you want to be, like you said, solving problems,
mhm,
sharing, examples, telling stories, and showing how you solve these
mhm.
problems that people are experiencing and offering client transformations as well.
I have a workshop I do that says never sell, build relationships. So we couldn't more heartily agree. And even if you are Gap, I don't really feel like Gap is selling when you go to their social media or anything else. It's implied that they're selling, but they're creating an experience. They're telling a story. They're showcasing a value through their garments, through their models, through whatever it is. But they're not, oh, you see me rocking? See, that's what I do. They're never actually just buy this from me today.
No, but they will say, here's a 50% off, or here's this is on sale today, and that, or like Macy's. Every
Sure,
commercial
sure.
that Macy's has ever put on television is, we're having a sale for this esoteric holiday. It's National Garbage Day. We're gonna have a sale. I don't know if that's a thing.
I found you on Instagram. So tell me about your social media marketing prowess. How do you use social media to build a business, to build a brand?
LinkedIn's really my jam.
Mm.
I love Instagram too. I was actually just on a live right before we got on here.
Okay, okay.
But I find that Instagram is more fun for me and LinkedIn is more, I'm networking with people. I've heard people, I had a coach who called LinkedIn the most boring networking on the planet.
That's me.
Oh, yeah, it is, but I can make it fun.
I'd like to hear your strategy for LinkedIn we don't have time, but I would love to actually talk to you about that because I have not cracked the code for LinkedIn and I'm starting to feel like I'm just not LinkedIn capable or I'm just not LinkedIn people. I do feel like I've cracked the code on Instagram, But I'd love to have a conversation with you about that if we could take this offline if you're interested.
Sure. I will say though, if your people are not on LinkedIn, why would you be there?
I think they are on LinkedIn.
You think they are on LinkedIn?
Yeah, in fact,
Who is your ideal audience?
very good question. Thank you for asking. I never thought you were going to ask me. My audience says, I sound very cliche when I say this, but my audience are purpose-driven CEOs. And when I say
And
purpose-driven
they
CEO,
are on LinkedIn.
very
So
much
yeah, so
people
you'd
who,
be on LinkedIn.
yeah, people who clearly know their brand and what their value is and what they bring to the table. And
Mhm.
like you are motivated, ambitious, that sort of stuff. But I'm not looking to work with people who are here to exclusively make money. And I vet that out in the process. I think money is a byproduct of the resource exchange you provide to the universe. But I want to see that you have a gift to give to the other people who live here and that you can make their life better because I've made it my life mission to make your life better by doing what I do. And so I want to work with people like that. And I didn't understand that in my first two businesses. I thought I would work with everybody. I'll photograph anyone and their dog and their mom. And I was like,
Oh
A,
my
I'm
God.
fucking burned out. B, I have buyer confusion. And C, like nobody has any idea exactly what I do, including me. So I spent a remember that company I was telling you about? I spent all that money so I could figure out who I really wanted to be when I grew up and what I wanted my business to look like. And so when that didn't happen, I was like, shit, now what? I started just reading literally every fucking book on the planet to figure things out myself. And there you
Yeah.
go. I'm self-educated on this whole thing.
Love it.
Yeah, so that's my so I do LinkedIn is has to be my space, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. So I'd love to if you're available and I can still a few minutes of your time, I'd like to chat with you about that.
Sure.
So LinkedIn, Instagram, social media, you do believe that has a presence. How much time we have? Let's see, looking at a clock. We have to run soon.
Oh, me? Yeah. In 16 minutes, apparently, I have
All right, let me
another.
get to some of my last few questions then.
Okay.
So you talked about, and I'm looking at some of my notes here, so just bear with me. There's a couple things I definitely wanted to catch you on. You
Mhm.
said your website plays a really big role in supporting your business goals.
I said that?
Yeah, I read that in one of your press kits. I thought I did.
I think
It,
you
it, it was
capitalized.
something about your website plays a big role in supporting business goals for authors to build their brand, is what I believe I read.
Oh, okay. Okay. So an author should have their book on their website.
Oh, is that what you meant? So
That is
what
what
are
I mean.
got it. Sorry if I misunderstood you.
No, I'm
I'm
sorry
going
if
to
I
make
was
up some other
unclear.
quotes that you didn't say and just going to read them right now.
Okay. I was like, even if I don't remember, usually it would sound like me, but that doesn't sound like me because I've sold packages when my website was down for 4 months. But I really do think that it is your resume, it's your online
Mhm.
resume, and that if you are not mentioning a book on your website, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
What are the most important elements that if you're using a web, and let's just say you only have one tool to market your business, okay?
Mm.
Social media, email proliferation, website, blogging, SEO, whatever. You get one tool, like this is it. What are you going to say? This is like my go-to.
Is a book, you get to have the book in this
Yeah, the
scenario.
book's already there, so you're helping me grow my business, but I can only pick one tool to take to the island with you. What am I using?
Podcast guesting.
Damn straight. I do like the podcasting. Here's why I podcast. I love that you said that. I've never had, uh, I've never in my life seen the potential for building more relationships, making more connections with strangers from all over the planet, Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm
And
definitely strange, so
yeah, definitely agree with that. And I would have never met you had I not had this opportunity. And not to say that we're going to be doing kumbaya around the campfire as well, but the fact that we now have contacts, we have energy, that sort of stuff. Like I may have a client for you someday, or I may even need your own services. So if anyone, and I tell this to all my clients, if you're not either guesting or hosting, and hosting takes a lot of time and energy, so I would prefer that you guest. This running the show is just, it's a lot of work. And so if you don't have the time to do that, or you don't have to know how to do it, just show up as a guest, borrow other people's audiences. It's like a free thing. You get to show up and just talk about what you do and how cool you are, or project how cool you are. You talk a lot about communication, which is what we're doing right now. And you've worked with a lot of different types of authors, from first timers. See, you have some famous authors too, I'm assuming, in your repertoire. You got some pretty cool people that you
yeah,
talk.
I've got some really cool people.
That's pretty cool. Do you have, how do I want to frame this question? Is the same tactics and strategy for a celebrity also applicable to a first time virgin newbie like me?
Yes, you still need a well-written book because if you don't have a book that is going to be representative of who you are in your brand, then there's nothing to sell. So that it has to be well written. It has to be edited. It shouldn't have mistakes.
Who's writing the book? If the author doesn't know how to write, you hiring a ghostwriter?
Yeah, theoretically you can hire a ghostwriter, but I like to help my clients actually write the book because then they feel connected to it.
So I'm assuming you're a good writer.
I like to think so.
Yeah, but if somebody just doesn't know how to write a book and they just can't write out of a can, you just can't force them to write a book.
I would never force anybody to do anything, but you have to be, if you think about the people that I'm working with, they're all intelligent. They all often write for their business. It's just a question of what you write. And I had a client come to me and I was able to look at his business, his book. Say that again. I had a client come to me and I looked at his book and it hadn't yet been published. And I said to him, right now, this reads like a workbook, like how to XYZ. Here is where you need to inject a story. Here is where you need to inject a story. Here is where you need to inject a client transformation. And so I was able to pull those stories out of him, and now it reads like a really good book.
So there is a method to your madness.
Always.
I'm going to illegally sign you up for my newsletter, and I would expect that you give me some feedback on it if you don't mind. But it's not going to say newsletter in the subject line, so don't get all offended when it comes across.
All right.
In terms of, I just did a photo shoot. My agency did a constructive photo shoot for an author. He's a chef here in Charlotte, and their book launch did not go as planned. It was poorly executed. Nobody showed up, and the author was obviously not amused by it. So in your situation, I know you've never had anything that's happened like that to you, but if you had, how would you pivot on that, something like that?
In this case, am I the author?
No, you're his publisher. Which, by the way, the publisher wasn't even there. Shouldn't you be there for the book launch?
Most publishers don't do the marketing.
But you do.
That's what differentiates me.
So you would be at a book launch for me.
Heck
For
yeah.
anybody.
Help you create I would help you get your team together and get the people at the book launch.
Okay, so all this work you just did flopped. It's just theoretical. Let's see how you think on your feet. And nobody showed up except for my mom.
Okay.
And my mom was even upset that there was
Okay.
like a shitty book launch. And she was
Okay,
like,
now
so what do we do next?
You're a photographer, so let's get your team photographing you and taking a ton of content at this event. We can pull people in who are outside and ask them to come in and look like there's a big audience there.
Can we use AI like some politicians are using for their rallies?
No.
Okay, sorry.
No, we'll use real humans.
Okay.
And we'll make a lemonade out of a lemon.
So we're just gonna do like a staged launch. We're gonna make it look.
Do a staged launch. We can also broadcast it live on Instagram. Hey, guess what? Here you are, live at my book launch.
Can we just do that anyway, even though I haven't written a book? We just like chameleon that out like that?
Remember, integrity over here.
The pioneer of integrity. All right. I have some philosophical questions to ask you.
Okay, because you haven't up till now, so please go.
Yeah, those are the boring questions. When I think about myself as an entrepreneur, one of the reasons I left the corporate world and to do what I do, and I'm sure most entrepreneurs have some of the similar things, but I noticed that I was crippling my soul when I was working in the corporate world. And I was doing cool things, met so many amazing people, really cool projects, but I noticed that I was like literally suffocating myself. I had no inspiration, no creativity. I was sitting in these silly corporate staff meetings all day long, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? This is not what I signed up for. So I left that world to operate at the time what I thought was going to give me freedom to come and go as I please. That's what I thought I wanted. That's not what I get out of being an entrepreneur today, because I have no fucking freedom. Okay.
You're your worst boss ever.
Yeah. I used to golf, play soccer. I would go to the gym. Like I was working 20 hours a week max. And even in those 20, it was probably only 10 because most of it is like eating birthday cakes for Marcia and Sally and Bob in the conference room every 18 minutes. And it's like, fuck, man, I don't get anything done. So I thought I'm going to go so I have freedom to come. I have no freedom. I sit in this chair a lot. Okay. So, what I do get out of being an entrepreneur is the fact that I get to make my own decisions. I get to take risks or not take risks. I get to look at myself in the morning and at night and say, I did this, I didn't do that, but ultimately it's my choice and how I respond to it going forward. I get to experience the opportunity to meet people like you and everyone else that I've worked with or had the pleasure of work with. And then every single day I get to grow into a different version of myself in some way, shape, or form. Like I grow every single day. There isn't a day that goes by when I'm just like sitting in my journal, like, holy fuck, man, I learned a lot of shit today. Like that I just didn't know yesterday. And so that's why I do what I do. So when you think about your life, philosophically speaking, when you wake up and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're brushing your hair and you're doing all your things, do you have these ruminations like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing? Tell me about those ruminations if you can. Like, why are you doing what you're doing?
I didn't choose to not work as a journalist anymore. I was laid off when I was pregnant. And it was a surprise. I went, oh my God, I'm unemployed and I'm unemployable. And it was at that moment that I realized I don't want to be beholden to other people and that there's another way to do it. I didn't have any experience. I didn't know any on I knew one entrepreneur, a friend of mine from Toronto.
Mm.
My family is all doctors and lawyers, and I didn't know anything about the entrepreneurial space. But I think I've always been entrepreneurial. And so when I'm, as you so aptly suggested, brushing my hair in the morning or putting on makeup, I'm often excited for what the day is going to bring.
Mm.
I'm excited to get to be on a podcast. I'm excited to get to work on a new lead magnet or to get to meet some new potential clients or to come up with really fun strategies
Mm-hmm.
because I get to choose. I get to decide. And I think for my personality, there's nothing greater than not being told what to do
I
by
like
some
that. I like
by
that you said I
somebody.
get to choose.
And when one of the things I always struggled with my personality is people who don't necessarily know what they're talking about, who are above me telling me what to do when I know that's not the thing that we should be doing.
So, what would you say to somebody considering becoming an entrepreneur? What's the one piece of advice that you would drop to them today besides speak to Deevo?
When I was starting out, I went to an event and I was talking to this woman and I said, so tell me, what do you do? And she said, there's the people who help with the mental part of the entrepreneur and the business coaching of the entrepreneur, but I do the spiritual coaching of the entrepreneur. And I went, oh, that's nice. And I walked away and I snickered and I went, what the heck is this woman talking about? This is crazy pants. Anyway, fast forward. I ended up on my own spiritual journey. And some of the people in my life think I'm bananas, and that's okay. I don't talk about it, but it's something that I do for myself. So, what I will say is when you become an entrepreneur, don't shut out something just because it seems kooky, because you're going to learn a whole lot more about yourself than you could possibly ever imagine when you don't work in an organization where everything is already determined for you.
Mic drop on that. What is your spiritual journey? What tell me about that? Can I ask?
Sure,
Smoking the peace pipe all night
oh
long?
gosh,
What's
no.
going on here?
I coffee is my substance of choice. I am just, have you heard of Akashic Records?
I have. I have a very
So
good
I can
friend who
read them.
does that.
I
You
can
can
read them.
read them? Man, I got to hook you up with my friend Donna Bond. That's what she does.
So I don't, it's not something that I advertise. I don't charge for it, but sometimes I read my own, I read other people's. And it's really gotten me in touch with things that
Hmm.
I guess I knew as a child,
Hmm.
but then as an adult with people who are very like blinders on, this is how it is. It didn't really jive with me. And yeah,
We're not supposed to talk about these sorts of things.
no, we're not.
But there's an argument to be made, and I'm not suggesting you should or you shouldn't. Keep your comments to yourself. But there's an argument to be made that humans have gotten away from that aspect of their life. And there's an argument to be made that they were intentionally driven down a path to repress that side of their life, whether you call it prayer or you call it
Mm.
spirituality or whatever you call it. Like the idea of mindfulness and meditation and understanding that there's a bigger thing out there than yourself and that there's a purpose. I don't begin to understand it. And we could talk for hours on theories, but they're all just that, theories. But there is a huge argument to be made that somewhere along the line we lost track and connection with that side of ourselves. And because of that, we got stuck into these perpetual journeys that I was talking about of my own, where it was just literally crippling myself. And like you, I got divorced like 13 years ago. Yeah, 13 years ago. And for me, that was a spiritual awakening, that divorce, because I had been successful most of my life. I never really had a lot of trouble. Nothing really. I grew up really poor, but I'd never really had anything that I had suffrage from other than my dad being an asshole. But losing that part of my life, like what I thought my linear was, remember we talked about the linear? I thought, holy shit,
Yeah.
like the linear just got completely dissected. So I had to go on a journey of my own, and I didn't realize I was going on a journey, but I started going down these rabbit holes, and I got turned on to, you mentioned Akashic Records. I got turned on and introduced to this woman who does past life regressions. And I did a past life regression therapy session with her. And she basically told me through my grandfather speaking to me that I was on the road to nowhere. And if I didn't get my shit sorted out fast, I wouldn't find my way out. And that's pretty wild.
Thank you, Grandpa. But I believe that because I've
Yeah.
had experiences that I have no doubt that happened.
Melanie, since I know you only have 4.5 minutes left, I do appreciate you joining the branding laboratory. Thank you. It's been a really cool and enlightening conversation. And I'm excited that I have somebody that I can add to my Rolodex for when if I ever get to that point, can call you or refer to people. If people want to find you, and if you're one of these people, preferably a wealth advisor or an attorney that has a lot of money to spend, then please call her. Otherwise, if you don't have money, don't waste your time. But if you are one of those people and you're looking to write a book, or if you're just somebody like me who's nebulously floating through the universe trying to figure out what they're going to write about, we can call you, we can DM you, or we can find you on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And we're going to put all those notes in the show notes.
Yeah, or you can just book a call, meetmelanie.vip.
That's the calendar.
Yeah, that's a link to my calendar.
I'm going to find some time in there because I'd like to talk about a few more things. Read her book, make a big impact with your book. You can find that on Amazon.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Why did I not get a copy of that?
I'll send you one.
That's like priority one if you're going to come on the show. If you have gifts, bring them.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Jeez. If you like the show, leave us a note. And Melanie, if you enjoyed your time here, if you have someone who would also be a good guest, please let me know and send them our way. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today and chat with me and humor me in my rabbit hole of questions. You did a very good job. You passed every one of them with flying colors. And thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So this is the cutoff. This is the intro that's going to go at the beginning of the episode before the standard intro. So take note of it. On this week's episode of the Branding Laboratory, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Melanie Herschorn. She is a true professional when it comes to marketing and branding. And we had a very philosophical and spiritual and eye-opening conversation about how to turn your book into a business game changer. But we also talked about her origin story and some of the lessons that she's learned and how she got into this space, which is what we do with most guests. But we took it a little bit deeper than we normally do. And I really enjoyed that side of the podcast to be able to meet a guest where they are. And not everybody is up for that sort of a challenge to, I don't mean me, I just mean as guests. Not everybody's up for going down these rabbit holes. Melanie was. And so it was fun to talk about building influence and visibility and driving revenue but social media and email newslettering and just how do you as an individual, whether you're an entrepreneur or a CEO or whatever you are, and you have this idea of a book, there's a lot of pieces that I don't think we hear about in this industry. And so Melanie has made it her mission to holistically approach each one of her clients, meeting them where they are with her chameleon-like approach and helping them conceptually create and bring to market and then amplify, very similar to what we do, by the way, their book, their idea, their big, juicy, audacious idea. So if you're ready to write a book and you need some insights on that, please check her out on her website, which is in the show notes. And if you're ready to elevate your brand, speaking of elevating brands, and dive deeper into what we do here at the Branding Laboratory, please head over to thebrandstoryteller.com. And if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. And I'm Deevo, and I look forward to seeing you the next time.